What if one of the biggest dementia risk factors wasn't just age or genetics, but viruses hiding inside your body for decades? Okay, so before we even start breaking down all that virus stuff, I just want to quickly reframe how we think about dementia because most people assume it's basically inevitable if you live long enough or that it comes down to your genes or bad luck. And yes, while age, luck, and genes are certainly a big part of this whole process, the real story is so much more complicated than that. One chapter that we've been seriously underestimating actually involves infection. So, specifically, certain viruses that never fully leave your body after you get them. Because some really fascinating research is starting to suggest that infections like shingles, yes, shingles, may actually play a role in your dementia risk. And even more interesting, certain vaccines may lower that risk. So, to break it down a little more, some viruses basically go dormant inside of you after they initially infect you. So, that means they don't get cleared out by your immune system, they just hide. And with finding out that this matters a lot for your brain health. Now, before anyone runs to the comment section, no, this does not mean that dementia is caused by just one virus, and no, vaccines are not some magic cure for Alzheimer's. But the science here is legitimately intriguing. So here's the background. Some viruses never fully leave your body after infection. They basically go dormant and can reactivate later, usually at a time when someone's super stressed and it's highly inconvenient for them to get sick with something. So a major example of this is the varicella zoster virus. That's the one that causes chickenpox in childhood and then shingles later in life. Now, researchers have increasingly been looking at whether chronic viral infections and repeated immune activation could contribute to neuroinflammation. That means inflammation in and around the brain. And neuroinflammation is thought to be one of the processes involved in diseases like Alzheimer's and other dementias. This doesn't mean a virus directly causes dementia in a simple one-to-one cause and effect type relationship. Dementia, of course, is incredibly complex. Genetics, the health of your arteries and veins, sleep, exercise, hearing loss, your visual health, metabolic disease, social isolation, all of these things and more add up to inform your dementia risk. But infection and inflammation may be one piece of this puzzle. So now let's dig in a little more with shingles because here's where things start to get really interesting. Multiple large studies over the last few years have found that people who get shingles appear to have a higher risk of dementia later on in life. And on the flip side, people who got the shingles vaccine appeared less likely to develop dementia. In fact, recent studies have found that people who got the shingles vaccine had about a 20 to 50% lower risk of developing dementia, depending on which study you're looking at. And other recent studies have found similar patterns when it comes to the relationship between getting the flu vaccine and having a reduced risk for dementia. But, and this is a huge but, this does not prove that vaccines prevent dementia. These are associations, they are links. That means researchers are seeing a pattern, but they can't definitively say the vaccine itself is the reason. Maybe vaccinated people also tend to exercise more. Maybe they have better access to healthcare. Maybe they manage chronic disease more aggressively. Researchers try to adjust for these things statistically, but observational research is always going to have these important limitations. So if you see someone online saying the shingles vaccine prevents Alzheimer's, and if you don't get it, you're going to get dementia, that's really overstating the evidence. But what we can say is this: the evidence linking viral infections, inflammation, and brain health is becoming increasingly compelling. And again, it's not just shingles. Some studies have also found associations between lower dementia risk and flu vaccines, pneumococcal vaccines, and other routine adult vaccinations. One theory is simple: preventing infections may reduce inflammatory stress on the brain, and that ultimately decreases the chances of developing neurodegenerative changes like the ones that lead to Alzheimer's disease. Another theory is that vaccines may actually have broader effects on the immune system that scientists are still trying to understand. So, what does all of this mean to you practically? How do you make sense of it? How do you apply it to your real life if you're interested in applying it to your life? Well, first of all, if you're age 50 or older, go get your shingles vaccine. It's called Shingrix. It's a two-dose series and it's strongly recommended. That's going to be amazing for your brain health. It's not just about preventing a painful rash. Beyond that, make sure that you're keeping up to date with all of your recommended vaccines, flu, COVID, pneumococcal vaccines. All of this is important for your overall health and your brain health. Second, watch this space on the link between viruses, vaccines, and dementia. Brain health may be way more connected to immune health, infection, inflammation, and the rest of the body than we used to appreciate. The brain doesn't exist in isolation. So this honestly makes sense. And honestly, I suspect that we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg here, that we are only at the very beginning of understanding how infections shape long-term neurologic disease. We are in a new era of dementia research. The idea that infections leave lasting marks on the nervous system is not a fringe hypothesis anymore. It's not a conspiracy theory. There are multiple studies that are pointing us in this direction. So it's become really mainstream neuroscience, and the implications for prevention are enormous, because if a virus can accelerate neurodegeneration, then blocking that virus or calming its inflammatory effects becomes a real form of brain protection. If you found this useful, share it with someone who asks you why you still care about vaccines. This is exactly why. And follow for more of this kind of evidence-based brain health content, because there's a lot more coming.